Welcome to Dark Character Profiler. Take a deep dive into the background and personalities of villains from books, video games, manga, and comics. Psychological analysis of some of the most deviant and heinous characters of all time. Now, here's Fulcrum.
Welcome to the final part of my interview with John Bynes. Let's not waste any time and get right into the final episode.
Dark Character Profiler.
I know you mentioned one, like at the beginning, where the story just kind of wasn't going anywhere, and you were like, I need something more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you decided on a psychological thriller and a serial killer. And so, like, was it the serial killer aspect that made the concept of the psychological thriller so enticing? Like, why that route?
Yeah, I think that was the conflict, right? Every story has to have conflict and you have to
Yeah.
overcome conflict. So I knew I had these three friends and I just had to create a story where there was going to be the major conflict and that they would overcome it. So I didn't want to have like an ending where I don't like endings where it's unresolved or the bad guy wins, if you will.
Right.
So that was my whole thought process. And the serial killer just lend itself because that was it. It was like a detective story, if you will, at that
Mhm.
point. And I kind of was drawn to that. I mean, I like those stories of detectives where someone's, you got this character that has flaws or has a history of like unresolved. So I had these characters that were definitely going to do that. And I didn't know how to explore it, but I was going to explore that aspect. And then they were going to involve themselves in this killer. Just
Mhm.
they said, but there's more involved in that. There's a reason why they were into it ultimately, and that's told in the story. So yeah, I mean, I just thought that was the easiest type of storytelling for me, if you will. I just didn't know any other way. I wanted to have that was the obvious conflict for me. I mean, yeah, you could have been
For
like,
that one.
well, this is just going to be a drama about three friends that have some history and we'll find out about their history and how they overcome that. I just didn't think as a writer I had that in me
Mhm.
versus I think I can write something that will be something I can talk to or write to. So it kind of, I don't know exactly how that came about. It's not like, oh, I was just always reading detective stories because I wasn't. I mean, I kind of read other types of books. I
Right.
mean, but I felt like if I'm going to have conflict, that's the conflict I need. And every story needs conflict and resolution, if you will.
Right.
So it just kind of came to I'm trying to think back when it really hit me, and I can't really because it was a blur. Because like I said, I started this and I took months off from it, and then I said
Right.
like, how do I make this story work? And then suddenly it just popped into me. It's like, and it probably popped into me because like I said, I read about this one serial killer. You hear about these other serial killers, and then you hear about people just. I think you just hear about death and murder all the time in the news. So I
Oh,
just started
yeah.
thinking about I was just thinking about, well, this is a part of our lives, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
let's just have this story kind of see where it goes if I can even do it. Because my whole point was like, okay, I have a story now.
Mhm.
Can I really do this? Can I finish this task, if you will, this novel? Because then you start searching. So I start searching, okay, what's the length of a novel? And they say, oh, anywhere from 50,000 words to 80,000 words. This is the typical length. So then I started doing the math and it's like, okay, this is what I got to do because if you don't, then it becomes a novelette. Novellas are shorter novels. And so I
Yeah.
had this whole just practical aspect to it too, being like, okay, I want to do this, but there's rules to how you do it. What's considered a novel? And there's a word length, there's a number of words. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to break up chapters. These are my chapters. This is my storyline. So yeah, I'm actually, yeah, it was a fun process, but it was also a challenging process, right?
Right. Especially like for your first book, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
like with my podcast, like my first few episodes, everyone tells me that they're, good, but I can't help but think that they're like crap and I need to redo them. you know?
Well, it's like a conversation. It's like I have these many conversations in my mind, and I go like, why don't I just put these in the words and make a story out of it?
Right.
So it's kind of like when I say something or I write something, do I like the way it sounds? And but then you think about, well, is someone else going to like it? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
like your friends are going to like it, and they're not going to be completely honest with you. So
Yeah.
when
Because
people when people I
they're gonna be like, I don't want to hurt their feelings.
or either that, they just go quiet, and you're like, well, maybe you don't like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I wrote just for myself,
Mhm.
and I think maybe with the podcast, you do the same thing. It's like something you do because it's for you,
Mhm.
and then hopefully people will get something out of it if they decide to watch it or read it, that kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. Are there any authors out there that influenced you during your writing process? Like, did you pull certain aspects from other authors?
Yeah, at the time, I mean, this is different. It's not psychological, but Blake Crouch, who does a lot of sci-fi action type of writing,
Mhm.
I just like his pace when he's storytelling and the pace and the character development. I really like that aspect. On an more intellectual level, I really love Richard Powers. He's
Mhm.
kind of a writer that's just done a lot of like more drama, but a lot of science based. But it's really getting in character. That's just like the way he writes and the way he describes things. And his, for me, as a writer, I'm always like, what's the right word to use here? How do I describe this? How do I piece these words together? I get really kind of involved in that sometimes. And I really, those type of writers I just listed, I really, when I'm reading, I'm analyzing, going like, oh, he did that reason. That's really kind of really, really smart or really kind of like spot on, if you will.
Mhm.
So those type of writers, it's funny. It's like you would think I would just be reading a lot of detective books or these twist books, but I don't really draw my inspiration there. I just draw my inspiration on like I said, it's always about what's my conflict,
Mhm.
and is the conflict describing what I think are their views like good versus bad, and how that kind of portrays into our society. And then I just try to see if I can write it the best way I can or tell it the best way I can. It's kind of weird. I mean, you would think I would be just like all about detective mysteries,
I feel
and I do
like
like those,
you
but
can pull from anything, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I mean, your inspiration can come from one area, but then the way you actually like form the story can come from almost anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a big reader of just like current events and news and trying to like process that. Like,
Mhm.
we're always trying to process ourselves in this world because as we live, we have our own experiences with the people who care about, who surround us. And then you just look at the world and it's just so many of us and so many things going on, right? So you're just trying to like see how it all works and what makes us as a group move down the road, if you will.
Right. Now I kind of want to get into my area.
Okay, great.
With some more psychology focused questions. So, how did you delve into the motivations and psychological complexities of the serial killer? Like, how did you just come to form him?
Yeah. So this is like when you're trying to think about a serial killer and their motives or what makes them do what they do. So
Yeah.
the psychology behind him was he had a point in the story where he discusses what he did and why he did it.
Hmm.
And it seems so kind of like it was a part of him already, but he didn't discover it until he had this instant occur
Hmm.
along the story. And I think it's like one of these things. It's like when we're going through life, when I was like college, when I went to college, it's like, what do you decide what you're going to do with your life? I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, and you're going back and forth, and then you make a decision. I'll just stick with this, and I stuck with something that I was good at, and I think a lot of times we do that. It might not be something we totally enjoy because we have hobbies outside of that, but we're good at certain things. So I
Right.
think this character, he was exploring his life, what he could do and what he was good at. And then unfortunately, what got him excited was when he had this control. So the
Yeah.
psychology is about he could control this that was happening
Hmm.
at a certain point in the book. And for him, that was like before he just felt empty or depressed or what is the point of living? What's the point of going about this world? Especially when you have
Right.
everything and you don't achieve and you're not trying to achieve anything or
Or
but
you didn't
stimulating you,
have
right?
like a guiding hand, like trying to lead you in a specific direction.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
he just was
you
like,
said, his parents kind of just let him do whatever.
yeah, they said, do what you want to do, learn life as best you can, become good at this, become good at that, become good at that. But it wasn't like, okay, you need to do this because you have so much and people have so less. Be fortunate. Have gratitude. He never had gratitude to the things that he came. It just came so easily.
Right.
But he was also, when things become so easy, you can still feel like lonely in the world. You can feel like it's my purpose. And unfortunately, his purpose came down to him being, I think it's control. Like he could control it. Like he was in that situation and he was threatened, but he knew he wasn't going to be hurt. He was the one that was going to do the hurting.
Right.
And then when you do that, just like the Dahmer thing, you have to get rid of whatever you did that's bad. And I think we do that. The psychology, sometimes we do things and we don't own up to it.
Hmm.
Like if you're in a parking lot and you back into someone's car, you say like, "Well, you were going too fast. It's not my fault. It's both our faults." A lot of times we just don't want to be accountable for things, you know?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's the control part. He knew his environment there when he had this instant, and he controlled it, and then he got addicted to that control.
Hmm.
And like we say, he just didn't have any morality. He crossed the line, and he was okay crossing that line. There was no good or bad in life. It's kind of like animals. Animals go out and their purpose is just to survive. As humans, we have a brain where we need to survive, but at the same time, we don't need to hurt people in the process or hurt things, or we
Hmm.
we kind of justify this kind of social behavior, or this we have a set of rules. For
Right.
him, he had his own set of rules and he was okay with it.
Right.
Right. So to me, that's how I look at it. I mean, I'm kind of simplistic on a lot of these things when
Hmm.
it comes to like decisions, but I base it on like a lot of times we just don't want to get in trouble. And a lot of times you do something that's going to get you in a lot of trouble, like
Hmm.
if you kill someone.
Right.
But for him, he was able to get away with it.
Yeah, and I noticed in the story that like he has this way of blending in and disappearing.
Yeah.
So
That's one
like
of his skill sets.
how did you formulate that? Like how did like I'm struggling to form the words to
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
question.
No, I know what you're saying. The way I can think about it is this: how you say you step in characters.
Hmm.
There's a lot of times in life where you're doing something and you're not really, it's kind of a white lie, if you will.
Hmm.
Like that whole expression where you're doing something that is not going to hurt someone, but if they knew about it, it would probably hurt them. And you
Hmm.
just come up with these options. Okay, if I'm doing this, then I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this.
Hmm.
So this serial killer is always kind of like, oh, if I'm going to do this at this point, I need to do it at the right time where I can get away with it. And then I need to do this series of steps to get rid of the evidence.
Right.
So he has to become this kind of like chameleon, or if you will. It's kind of like he can morph himself
Hmm.
and hide himself. And he's always like, it's like a chess player. You're looking 3 or 4 moves out. So when you're in this place, okay, if I'm going to do this, then I got to make sure that I can go this way, this way, this way, and not be seen. And
That
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that that brings me back to that one scene that I brought up earlier where they're in the cafe and all of a sudden it switches to his internal dialogue saying, "Oh, they're still calling me that."
Yeah,
Where like he's there.
yeah,
He's right there and they don't
yeah.
even notice him.
Yeah, yeah, well, when you're telling a story, sometimes that might be some parts that are unbelievable, going like, that can't happen. But you have to do it because you're trying to put tension in the story. So
Yeah.
sometimes you put certain things in there where you're kind of going down the writing and you're going like, I have to do this. All right, is the reader going to believe it? But
Yeah.
that's part of the fabrication, or the kind of the outlandishness of storytelling sometimes, where you're just kind of like, all right, I'm going to put this here because I have to, but I got to make it so no one gets discovered, and that's my kind of liberty to do that.
Yeah.
But how you craft it is a different way. But I wanted this guy, he's all kind of knowing and all seeing, if you will, because with a serial
Right.
killer, you got to make him almost like a superhero. It's almost like they're like the CIA. They're like the special forces. They're like and that's scary, right? Someone that could be
Yeah,
so good at
blending
killing people,
in.
right? Yeah, blending in, and he has that. I mean, there's a whole thing where he's using, I won't tell it, but he's using something that draws the characters in or makes them go like, "Oh, this is happening."
Right.
Because the characters find out more about him at a certain point
Mhm.
when they just won't say the details, but they discover, "Oh, okay, this is happening."
Right. Okay. How did you use the characters, so like the different characters' backstories, fears, or secrets, or anything like that, to drive the plot and create the internal conflict? So, like with the idea of inserting a woman into a trio where there's
Yeah.
going to naturally be this internal conflict between the two men.
Yeah. So yeah, natural stories like the narrator would be kind of being involved with the woman if the woman's involved, but I didn't want to have that. So it's another character, and then when I was developing story, I had to have him before he came to Houston be involved with someone else, and then when he's involved with this other person, it's such an intense moment because it's very similar to what they're going through right now,
Yeah,
where you have this life and death situation.
right.
And in the previous time, it just didn't go the way I hope, right?
Yeah,
So when something doesn't go your way, you have this fear, oh my God, it's going to happen again. So I put that whole fear of your history, oh, this is just happening to me again. This sucks, that kind of thing.
yeah.
So I know I wanted to put that layer part of the story. So I did that. And then I think with the whole like, it's funny, it's like how you draw things. Cause I remember one of my best friends and I, when we were younger, we both liked a woman at the same time. And we're funny, we had a conversation about like, oh, this, let's not let this become between our friendship, but we knew the tension in that moment or situation. So I think I wanted to put that in there, and I'd put that in there in the story, and also it's deeper than that because one of the characters she's involved in a lot of different people, and all those people are connected to the overall story,
Right.
right? So I put that was the part where I told you earlier where at first I didn't have those characters there. I had other characters, but then I
Mhm.
said like this isn't going to work. I need something a little bit more intriguing, something that's more connective. So that's why I kind of like brought characters that were introduced and then I kind of reintroduced. They became part of the story too.
Right.
If that, I mean, makes sense if you read the story. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I it that makes sense.
yeah.
How did you set about exploring dark themes like obsession, betrayal, or manipulation in a way that's both captivating and thought-provoking for the reader?
Yeah, so provocative and thought. I mean, the first one's easy, like the betrayal. I think we all have this kind of bitterness to people who've treated us badly in life, and you kind of like go through a phase where it's like if you had a breakup or something, you just get rid of everything, and you go like, man, I don't like this person, don't ever see them again, can't
Right.
do anything. So that part is easy to draw from, but putting it in a way that's just not so hateful, but put it in a flowing way that progresses the story. That was where I struggled the most, and that's where I had the most challenge. But I was able to just try to have dialogue
Mhm.
and feelings expressed along the way. If that
Mhm.
makes sense. So that's what I was trying to do is like have everyone experiences loss or bitterness, and then how you move from that. But this killer can't move from it, right?
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
whole
he's
thing.
kind of stuck.
He's stuck and he's letting that fuel him.
Right.
And you can look at it in a lot of ways where he was better at one point in time and then he lost that. And then the loss of that just made him go back to being the thing that he struggles with,
Mhm.
but he's good at. And he's just he can't get over it, And I think for me, you read about that. I mean, it's awful, but you read about these like situations where people just can't get over things and then they harm the person that felt like they were harmed by, I guess.
Mhm.
Right. So part of me was trying to get inside that mindset, how you feel about
Mhm.
that. Because you can become obsessed, right? I mean, everyone can
Oh
become,
yeah.
I can't get over this. My mind won't let me get over this. And you talk about insomnia. Yeah, you're just like thinking about something that harmed you or hurt you. I mean, for me, it's like sometimes you go to a dinner party or something, and you're not clicking, you're not connecting with people. And then I struggle. I go back at home at night and I go like, damn, why couldn't I connect? And it just eats away at you. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes like a serial killer, it eats away at that person and they felt harmed, and then they know how to harm really well, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
so
Yes.
like I think I was kind of that was my thought process for like that part.
Okay. How did you use moral dilemmas to challenge readers' assumptions and make them question their own beliefs?
Yeah, that's what I said. Like this, I'm interested sometimes when you have an antagonist, but you can also see their viewpoint. So that was a big part of the storytelling where he was trying to justify what he thought. For him, life was just, it's like mechanical. We live, we die.
Yeah.
And we get up every morning, like, and I think for him, there was no such thing as good or bad. And I think that's the line you cross when you can decide my action is justified because it's an action and that's life. People die all the time. People live all the time.
Mhm.
And he was trying to say, like, well, this person was going to do this and I just helped him, or
Yeah.
this person was like this way and he was pointless. So yeah, I did this.
Right.
So there for the moral thing is like a lot of times we're so self-centered that whatever we do, even though we know we've been told it's bad, I'm okay with it because I can bring some good out of it. Even though there's bad. We all know there's good and bad and oh, this was really bad. But hey, some parts of it are good. So I was trying to just talk about because there are bad characters a lot of times that you kind of see in stories, and you go like, well, I identify with some of what that
Yeah,
person's
you like kind of
saying.
resonate with them a little bit.
Yeah, he's mad at the world, and damn, he just did that, and he just did this to this person, that person. Because sometimes bad people win, right? I mean, we look
Yeah.
at the world all the time, and there's some people who just win. Not everything ends in a rosy story, if you will. But
Right.
so for me, it's more about this person having logic. For me, it's like it's logic. A lot of times you get in arguments with people, and there's no winning sometimes. But you try to be logical and you hope they see your logic, even though they don't see your logic because they're mad at
Yeah.
you or whatever it could
Yeah.
be. So I wanted this guy, the killer, to put that out there. And as he's kind of describing himself to the different characters, they listen to him
Mhm.
and they go, man, this guy's, yeah, he's crazy or whatever.
What do you hope readers will take away from The World is Angry?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's all about this resolution. So there's like this seems like this impossible task.
Mhm.
So for me, it's all about hope in that they can get over this task. And the protagonists are doing that. And
Mhm.
at the end of the story, they've settled with their past because they have this past that still kind of haunts them.
Mhm.
And by doing what they did, fighting against this serial killer, they kind of resolved that. And then in the last chapter, they're going on different paths that they feel like are kind of like good paths for them,
Mhm.
you know? So that was the whole what I'd want readers to get out of is like we have difficulty in life and then you overcome that difficulty. And then how does that change you and what do you do going forward? And if you're not happy with your path, then you can always change it.
Mhm.
So that's what I was trying to hope in a way. I didn't say it directly, but in the back of my mind, that's a part of it, of the story. I mean, the story is all about like this chasing this person, right? That's the big part of it, and why this person did what he did, and what's he doing, and they got themselves caught up in something that they couldn't get themselves out of, right?
Mhm.
And then it was resolved. So yeah, and then the story's left open at the end, meaning like, well, maybe these three characters will do something else in the future. You never know. Right.
Right. So, what makes a good psychological thriller in your opinion?
Actually, I didn't do this, but some of the best psychological thrillers is like you don't really know until that last chapter.
Mhm.
The way I set mine up is you knew kind of what was going on to a certain extent, but you still didn't know the why. So my storytelling was more about like getting like all kind of like, oh man, this is tense. This is happening. This is happening. And then boom. Oh, okay. Now we kind of got a half part of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but then you got to find out the why, more of the why.
Right.
So, but a psychological thriller, I think, is from what I've read, is like just something that's high paced. I was trying to do that high pace, high pace, high pace, and then you have some big like firework, big ending, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of like how we could do that. I mean, recently I heard about this mystery that came out where, the whodunit type stories where you find out at the very end. Well, this author actually tells you who did it at the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And then he has to piece backwards how he got to that point, which I thought that's a
That's
challenge. That's really
interesting.
that's hard storytelling because the who done it is all about like not to the last moment, and then they explain, oh, this is who did it and why and how it all pieced together. This
That's
one's like,
kind
oh,
of
this
an
is the
interesting
killer,
concept. It's
and then you
like,
got it backwards.
yeah, like all of the other characters, like like the reader knows, but
Yeah,
and nobody else knows any of like the other characters don't know.
yeah, exactly.
So you got to
So
explain how they come to the
yeah,
final
exactly.
conclusion, if they come to the final conclusion.
Yeah. And this story is like my psychological thriller. Like, I just wanted to put the reader like, okay, this is happening and it's done in this way, but it's really behind the thinking. So I wanted to kind of tell it in a way where moments came where, oh, I'm going to explain why I did this, the
Hmm.
reasons. So, but yeah, that was my piece. But I do love psychological thrillers. I mean, they're fun to watch as movies and even read.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So, how did you balance giving enough clues to keep readers engaged without making the ending too predictable?
Yeah. So I think it's just piecing together how with this is the chase story.
Mm.
The protagonists are chasing this person. So as a challenge to writing, you had to kind of come up with things that seem believable
Yeah.
and also kind of cool or neat at the same time, if that's kind of a simple way of saying it. But like
Hmm.
I put certain parts of the story, certain locations, certain items coming into play, if you will. And I had to piece those together
Hmm.
because it's a chase between the protagonist and the antagonist. So for me, it's
Right.
like I had to selectively say, okay, this is going to occur at this time, this moment, this item. So there's a reoccurring item that keeps the story moving along. And it actually at the end is very important, these items, if you will.
Hmm.
So that was kind of my kind of putting things together. Because when you're writing, you're like, okay, well, you're going to go to this kind of clue, like what you're talking about, to this clue, to this clue. So how do you kind of string that together? So yeah, I was like for example, I brought in this Instagram person who's in real life
Right.
is a person, but I had to fictionalize that person with a different name.
Right.
So yeah, that had to be in there, and then it had to tie back to a certain item,
Hmm.
that's part of the story, and the characters did this at a certain point related to something they're looking at. So yeah, it's just kind of layering out, like I say, when you're writing, it's like, oh, this has to come in to make the story progress, if
Right.
you will.
Yeah. How did you, so this is going to be more of like focused questions.
Hmm.
So, how did you approach revision and editing, and how did the manuscript evolve throughout the process? Like, was there things that had to be cut, things that you were like at the end when you were
Hmm.
going back and making edits and like slight changes? How did
Yeah.
that
So
process go?
Yeah, so it's always kind of you're thinking about what you wrote, or at least what I wrote, and then thinking about, well, does this make sense with the current part of the story? Because when you write a novel, especially the first time, it's like, am I going to forget what I wrote way back then? And then what
Right.
I'm writing now, does it connect? So you're constantly thinking about, okay, I wrote this, I wrote this, I wrote this. Now I have to write this or this, so it connects to what you wrote prior.
Right.
And what I find the crafting part is I break it up into chapters, because if you have one big long manuscript, you can get kind of lost and you got to go back to page 40 when you're on page 100.
Yeah.
So I kind of just split things up in the chapters, And then I go like, okay, I'm focusing, and I usually go like, okay, these are 5 things I really want to focus on in this chapter, and they're related to what I did prior. And believe it or not, I was a little bit overwhelmed at first, thinking like, I'm not going to remember what I did prior, but actually, it stays with you more than you think, even though you're writing like so many words and you got this big thing and that you did. For me, I remember, oh, I did that and I did that, so I got to do this.
Right.
So you go back, you edit, and you're like looking for the grammar mistakes. You're looking for like, oh, did I use this too much? Am I kind of using, you get into little details about like, I need to vary it up. I need to make this more dynamic. I don't need to make this like, I don't need to use I 4 times in a row. It's like
Right.
you get all these little details like, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this.
Yeah, like
So yeah,
it's almost like nitpicky.
yeah, it's a back and forth process. And then when I finish the whole thing, then you kind of give a read and you make marks, 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 no, 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 or oh, I didn't do this chapter's too short. I need to add a few more paragraphs. So yeah, it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you're making sure you're bringing things along that it's like you're not telling. This is one of the hardest things I have because it's a word thing, and there's this requirement that you got to have this many words.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you're storytelling, I could tell the story really fast,
Right.
but you kind of got to get back and say, no, be
I need
patient.
more detail.
Yeah, yeah, you have to tell the story. You're trying not to be boring, but you're trying to tell the story a little bit, like you said, more detailed and flowing.
Mhm.
But don't just go to it. Don't go A to B real quick. The A to B
Right.
path is you got to go a little bit like this and then just land it
Mhm.
and be patient about it. That's the struggle, being patient with your storytelling and that because you want to rush it. You want to like, hey, I want to get done with this. I had this idea in my mind. I just want to get it down and be done. But you're like, no, this is going to take months, right?
Right.
And you need to be thoughtful about it, and you need to just tell it in a story type manner, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, that's the process for me constantly when I'm in
Okay.
that process.
I have kind of a follow-up question. So like what writing tools did you use? Like how did you write it all on your computer? Did you write it out like with pen and paper? Did you use the typewriter? Like what how did you
Just my laptop, Microsoft Word. I think in the past I used to think I could just write on paper, but that's really tedious and my handwriting is really bad.
Mhm.
I actually find when I'm typing, because I know how to type, I mean, so I find that typing really is the best kind of production for me or being the most productive. So I just write on Microsoft Word and then I just kind of, like I say, it's a conversation inside my head. So I go back and I reread the words and I say, does that sound good? Does that sound right? Did I make the right like grammar? I mean, did I correct it like in a grammar way, like putting the comma there? Did I do that? Do I need to do a hyphen? And then yeah, I mean it's just yeah, I just make sure I'm rereading. So there's no tools per se, but I find typing is better for me versus writing by hand, I guess. And then like if I have an idea somewhere, like I'm at a cafe or something, coffee shop, I'll use just my notes on my iPhone. Like I say, oh, this is a good sentence. Like I'll be outside sometimes. I'm like, oh, I really like the way I describe this sky at night. So then I'll just type whatever's in my head, and then I'll go back to my computer and write it in a different way. But it's like a journal, right? I'm using my phone a lot of times when I'm out and about and say, oh, I had this idea. So I'll just write it down in the notes.
what advice do you have for aspiring authors now that I believe you said you just finished your second book?
Yeah, I'm in the editing process with the second book. So
Okay.
yeah, but it's all done. Yeah, I think it's the patient part. It's like I say, it's like when we have an idea and we're so excited about that idea,
Mhm.
we just want to put it down there. I just that's just me. I'm very impatient with things. I'm like, oh, I got this idea. I want to be done with it. But it's like you can't do it. It's impossible. I mean, some people can do it. Like Stephen King. Some of these writers, like Stephen King, is just amazing. These guys are just so prolific. I mean, over their career, they wrote like 200 books. And you think about that, and they're long books. They had to write probably 4,000 words a day. I mean, just to get through
Mhm.
that many books over that many years, there's just like
And
they just can write.
especially with Stephen King because like a lot of his books are like just one book is like
1,000
really
pages
long.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that they can flow. They just have a flow about them,
Mhm.
and they can generate ideas, and they just tell the story, and it's just amazing. I mean, those are the people you're envious of. Because talk about writer's block, I don't think they ever have writer's block. Or their version of writer's block could be like, I'd be like a great day of me writing or something.
Yeah.
It's like insane. But so I think it's just patience. It's like you have an idea and just stay with it and just kind of slowly develop it, and there's going to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I think for me too, it's not the inspirational part. I mean, the part of it is inspirational. You get this idea and you're like, man, this is really inspiring. But then it's just like a job in some ways, meaning like you have to have structure. You have to say like, okay, I'm going to do 2 to 3 hours of writing right now, and I'm not going to do anything else. And even if it's not going well, you got to stick to it and just grind it out, because you just can't say like, oh, I'm going to get inspired at 8 p.m. tonight, and then I'm just going to be like a flourish of writing for 3 hours. I mean, for me, it's like it's like anyone that goes to work. You just got to have a schedule. I
Mhm.
don't think it happens without a schedule. And I
Yeah.
think most of the people I know who have learned about or have heard interviews about their writing, that they do that exactly.
Mhm.
Like this is a historical writer. Mind blank, but I love his writing, and he's passed away now. But yeah, he wrote, but he had an office, and it was a thing where he worked at home, of course, but he had this office outside the house and just in the backyard. And
Mhm.
there was a rule that he had this height limit because he had all these grandchildren when he was writing to, that no one below this, but anyone above this height couldn't come bother me. So it's like you can't be bothered, right? You just gotta put time aside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I learned about, just do it. Just get there in 3 hours. You need to do this, and this is your goal, right? So,
Right. Is there a specific scene or passage you're particularly proud of?
question. There's a couple parts that come to mind. I like the whole scene for Peter. He's one of the protagonists,
Mhm.
where he just has this moment where he relives his past life in Los Angeles. And I just really like how I got into that moment of his involvement with someone he was cared about, loved, and how
Mhm.
he reacted to all the things that were happening at that moment. And then how he draws that back to the current moment at
Right.
times in the story with the people that he loves and cares about now. I really like doing that. And then a lot of these things, like when I was writing the story, it's like I just didn't know these certain clues you talk about, like how to draw them in. So I'd go for a run. I'd be like, oh, how am I going to do this with the story? Is it going to be believable? At
Mhm.
least half believable. It doesn't have to be, because with storytelling, you can be like yeah, you were saying, like, how does this guy morph himself not to be visible? I mean,
Right.
that's just a part of that's my creative liberty I have. I mean, I'm going to do it anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. I mean, I kind of like where I piece together certain clues and how
Mhm.
clues were used to solve something, because this killer was unbeatable, but they beat him. And he had flaws because he got cocky, or he thought, "Oh, I'm okay because I'm in control
Mm.
and I didn't do anything wrong," or something that they can use against me. But Peter used some clues, so they were able to help him. And so I liked how I pieced that together. That was kind of some of my favorite parts of writing, trying to do that. And then just trying to tell why the killer did what he did.
Mhm.
Just trying to get into that whole mindset. And because I could see, like, you're trying to justify why people do things, and you never know exactly. I mean, sometimes people can't control it, like they're addicted to it.
Mhm.
Like how you're saying about Jeffrey Dahmer, I think he probably had an addiction to his behavior,
Mhm.
and it got him high, and then he got away from it, and then he needed that high again. I
Mm.
think there's a lot of people like that one killer that in Chicago I was talking about, Holmes. They probably think he got sexually satisfied from what he was doing, and he couldn't. So you can almost say he was addicted to that behavior,
Right.
and he couldn't get away from it, right? As much as he probably tried to stop it or say like this is bad, it overcame him. Like some people, when they're addicted, and you're talking about how can we help serial killers? Is there a way? If we knew what was driving them that they couldn't control, then maybe you just have an intervention. If you could, if there's such a thing for behaviors of killers.
Well, so serial killers throughout time often occur during times of hardship. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've like picked up on that, but like a lot of I think the most active time period in the United States for serial killers was in like the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like that's when most of them were active, like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, like all of like the really big names for the
Yeah.
United States, they were active during that time period.
Huh.
And there's significant things going on in the world at that time, and even in the 20s, Great Depression.
Yeah.
There's like this pattern of like society where
Okay.
it's I don't know if it's necessarily like the hardship that the world is going through at the time that creates that kind of great environment for them to exist.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a pattern with it. Like, obviously, we don't see as many now as we did back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, the world's crazy at the moment, though. We might,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of bad stuff going on.
Yeah.
A lot of like changes, if you will, right?
Right.
And who knows what's going to happen with the next 5, 10 years? We don't know, right?
Right.
So, I think I was thinking of hardship. I mean, yeah, maybe that's the trigger point. Maybe even for the killer, they have some hardship that just pushes them over. I think we all have a breaking point, right?
Hmm.
But to them, it's not a breaking point. It's kind of like maybe it's
Right.
an enlightenment to them. Their
Yeah.
own perspective is like something happened to them.
Right. And then there's also like the debate of, nature versus nurture. Like, are you born with it or does your environment play a factor? So, like, obviously, well, it can be assumed with your serial killer, his lack of nurture could
Yeah.
have portrayed or not portrayed. His lack of nurture could have been the catalyst for him, where there was no monitoring going on, so he was able to explore everything.
Yeah.
But then there is also I think, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think that's been explored by so many people too. Like, I mean, just think of Steinbeck and the Grapes of Wrath. He has a famous one of the chapters where he talks about the woman that's just not really nice, and he says, "Well, some people just are born not. Some people are just born bad."
Mhm.
It's like he's saying like there's something in some people that they just can never be good. It's
Right.
just like genetics and your chemical. I mean, all the chemicals that interactions that happen inside your body are complex and
For sure.
maybe it's like maybe some people are just drawn to not the rules that we set up. And it's just something inside them already. It's like even me, I mean, growing up, I kind of grew up in a very Christian based family, but I was never that way. And I have no clue. All my family was really devout and faithful and they had the faith, but I never had it. I was the kid in like Sunday school saying, well, what about all the people in India? They don't follow Jesus. What happens to them? I wasn't like I don't know. I don't know what makes me that way. I have no clue.
Mhm.
But I think there's something, even when you're nurtured, because my mom was like, they believe this and this is what they taught me, but I always fought against it. So
Right.
it's like, why? What makes you fight against something that's being taught to you? But it's got to be something inside you already,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely. What's next? So after publishing The World is Angry, did you take a break from writing or did you immediately start with your second book?
Actually, I had the good fortune. I already had the idea for the second book
Mhm.
as I was finishing up the first book. So, and I had it pretty much outlined. Like I said, I do. So I
Mhm.
just went immediately into the second book.
Oh, wow. No
So yeah,
break time.
no, it was very short. It was probably like no, it was happening as I was doing the self publishing. I was just right into the next story, and for some reason, it just kind of was falling pretty good
Mhm.
together. That story. So that story is more about. Actually, I've taken a different approach. I mean, I want to do more of The World is Angry, meaning like I would like to write this as a series.
Mhm.
I have some ideas down that already, but like I said, I'm influenced by Blake Crouch. So I had this sci-fi action thriller in my mind. So I decided to explore that, and that's what I wrote for the second book. And
Okay.
um, again, it's a story between good and evil, and then two friends that end up fighting each other.
Okay.
So yeah, that was kind of, I went straight to it, but now I'm just editing, and right now I think after I edit this, I'll try to do the literary agent thing again, see what happens, and take a break. Like I say, because the writing can just consume you. So take a break, take a short break.
Okay. So you kind of just went into a little bit of like the premise of the book, and like what the genre is, but do you have a title for it yet?
Oh yeah, it's called Flight.
This one's going to be kind of an interesting question.
Okay.
So, if you were to reread The World is Angry in the future, what aspects of the book do you think might surprise your future self?
Good question. I think the surprise would be biggest surprise. I think. Oh, you got me stumped on that one. I think the biggest surprise to me is like, I don't know if I could change it, but it's just the heavy dialogue with the killer. I think I had to have it in there, but somehow I wish I didn't have these really big speeches by him. I mean, maybe I could have like done a better job of not making that like not, it's almost like you're making things so obvious to the reader, but sometimes you got to tell a story where you lead the reader to have that thought, but you don't just spell it out for them.
Right.
I think as a writer, I was trying to do better at that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I hate sometimes when someone's so like they're not very clear and they leave it too much for the reader. Like I do like kind of the simple storytelling where it's like you want to know exactly what is going on, and you don't have to really like struggle with that kind of that. But yeah, I think I could do the future self. It's more like it's the dialogue. Dialogue is tricky, trying to find the right balance of dialogue. Especially like I think 200 years ago, people were really big on long dialogues, but in today, they really want short, choppy, to the point dialogue. If you look at a lot of writing.
Yeah. And for the final question that I have for you, do you
Mhm.
have any final thoughts, points, or messages you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
I think we talked a lot. It's been a good
Yeah.
conversation. I mean, final points. I don't know if I have exactly any final points. It's more like I think I wanted to try to talk about characters I kind of care about. So those are the protagonists. I really care about their stories, what makes them who they are,
Mhm.
and then it's all, my mom always gave me a lot of hope in life. So this is kind of, we always have conflict. We always have something to overcome. And these characters, I wanted them to overcome something in front of them. So I decided to make a serial killer be that thing that kind of made them think about their past, think about their present, and then how they're going to go forward in life.
Mhm.
And there's a connection to the killer. I wanted it to be like sometimes there's serial killer stories. There's no connection to who's trying to chase them. This person's trying to chase this person because they're interested in the killer and what they do, and they get obsessed with it. But this one, there's a chase between both of them because there is a connection.
Right.
So it's not just the serial killer doing what he does because he's addicted to it and he finds ways to justify his actions.
Mhm.
He's doing it for a reason. He's
Right.
using his craft to get inside the protagonist's lives because he has a reason for that. And then they have a reason too for trying to get inside his life.
Right.
So we just try to see that all comes to a resolution or to a height of the climatic part of the story, and then it just kind of falls into pieces. And there's connection to how things happen to the whole story, why things are done. Everything's done with a purpose, I guess. But then at the end, the characters are leading a good life, leading something they feel like is going to be better for them. They become better in the whole process. So that's kind of my message, I guess.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, this has been enjoyable. So I've enjoyed talking about this story. It's something that was a big part of my everyday for like 6, 8 months, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun to talk about it and explore these different details of the story that people see.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about it. Okay, so final thoughts. Thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for taking the time to interview me with all these great questions.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, it was a great time. I would love to do it again. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely we can explore other ideas as if I get ideas, things like that. So yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
And how can readers learn more or stay updated on your work?
Well, they can go to where the book is being sold. There's a biography on me and
Mhm.
things like that. There's Instagram, like John A. Vine's official, that's kind of shows this book and shows different pictures and things like that for The World is Angry. So in the process, but I don't know when it's going to be over. There could be a website that I'm trying to build as I talk about this book and future books, things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, there's those kind of outlets, if you will.
Okay. And where can readers find your book?
It's on they can find the Amazon. That's usually the place people like to go. Barnes and Noble, the Apple iBook store, Goodreads. Those are a handful of the platforms that people can find the book.
Okay. And I will provide links in the description for the episode to all of those options. And do you have, like, outside of Instagram, do you have any other social medias where people can find you if you wanted to put that out there?
I don't have those per se. Just have my own personal kind of Facebook or Instagram, things like that. But yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again. And thank you all for tuning in to this episode with John Vines. Don't forget to grab a copy of his book from one of the links down below in the description. Follow him on Instagram. A link to that is also in the description. And finally, like this episode, leave a comment down below, hit the follow button, and share the episode. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Dark Character Profiler with Fulcrum. Listen every other Tuesday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. Humanity was not meant to live this way. Society is left to the mercy of murderers and cutthroats. Hear Paige Zaplin Dam's epic tale brought to life in an audiobook. For years, Slade had felt secure in the forest. I am from simple, humble beginnings. I was raised in the Ironwood by an Ogress, an Anaral. He saw immediately that she was beyond a healer's aid. Even a skilled witch could not help her recover from losing so much blood. Mother? Slade thought he wanted revenge. Instead, he got redemption. A kingdom of ash and steam. The Ogress's Son. A dystopian neo-Dark Age fantasy. Narrated by Rich Fraser. Now available on iTunes and Audible. I promise you I will find whoever did this and avenge you, Mother.